Hello and welcome to Pickleball Therapy, the podcast dedicated to your pickleball improvement with a focus on the pickleball mind. I'm the host of your weekly podcast, Tony Roig. It's a pleasure to be with you this week. This week, we're going to cover a topic that I think you'll find really interesting. It has to do with having a tethered or untethered approach to your pickleball journey. And I think you'll see by the end that having a tethered approach is much more productive as well as fulfilling way of engaging with the sport, and it also avoids some of the common pitfalls that we see players fall into frequently. And the idea for this week's podcast came from some comments that were to a video on the Into Pickled YouTube channel that I had done. I did a video on rushing and how it affects your play. There's some exchange of comments in there by players, and it made me really think about this idea of why are players having difficulty with these concepts in terms of being able to navigate them productively. And that's where I came up with this idea of tethered, untethered, which I think you'll really enjoy, and it'll help you process, it'll not just process information, it'll help you do that, but it'll also help you navigate, if you will, your path as you work on your pickleball game. So we'll get into that. As we dive into it, a couple of housekeeping notes. I've been getting some questions about the paddle I use. I've been using the PaddleTech 14.3 millimeter paddle for a little bit of time now. I think it's an amazing paddle all the way around. I was using the ALW-C 14.3 millimeter. I think it's an amazing paddle for pretty much any player can use that paddle. I have gravitated towards the GTO-C, same 14.3 basic paddle, just a different shape. I just like the way that it swings better. I came from tennis, and so it just swings more like a tennis racket to me, which I appreciate as even though I'm playing pickleball now, pretty much 99.9% of the time. But I just like the way that it swings. I like the way it engages with the ball. And so if you're interested in checking out that paddle, we do have a relationship with PaddleTech. We'll put a link in the show notes. You can also go to betterpickleball.com. You can either buy it directly from PaddleTech or through Pickleball Central if you want to get the customer server at Pickleball Central. Both links will give you a discount through our affiliate relationship with both of those entities. So you get a discount, we get some credit because we sent you, and it helps everybody. It doesn't affect your price. So if you can do that, that'd be fantastic. If you're interested in that paddle, I cannot recommend it enough to you. If you're not sure which shape, the ALWC is still a fantastic paddle to go with. The other point of housekeeping is that we have now had well over 100 players who have purchased the Pickleball Therapy book. So thank you very much for doing that. It really helps promote the book with other players, reach other players. It also lets us know that we're connecting with you. So really appreciate that. We'll probably be asking you guys who have purchased an early copy of the book to help us out when it goes on Amazon to put some reviews on there in the next few weeks. So I'll let you know about that as soon as that occurs. And again, really appreciate you doing that. And if you haven't gotten a copy of the book yet, you can. It's betterpickleball.com. Get your early copy of the book. All right, let's dive into this tethering concept and let me set it up for you. So I did a video about rushing and some of the errors that occur from rushing. One of the errors that's discussed in there has to do with the return of serve, and it has to do with too much energy into the ball from running through the shot, losing control of it. Primarily energy is the issue. Can have trajectory problems as well. If you're one of our students, you probably familiar with energy and trajectory. If you're not one of our students, it basically just means too much power into the ball. Also trajectory, how you control the direction of the shot. So that was one of the errors that was discussed. So there was a comment made, which was about a video that Zane Navratil, pro player and fellow coach, had done recently. So it says, Zane just did a video on return of serves that says the exact opposite. His method is to treat the return different from a drive and move forward through the ball with a shorter stroke, which puts you at the kitchen quicker. So which is a correct, better method? That question, fantastic question, right? Great question. Super, understands that there may be a disagreement between these two ideas, which there is not, as I'll explain, but it sets up, it's a perfectly fine question to ask. The thing that got me thinking was the couple of comments to that comment, or a couple of replies to that comment. One was, I would listen to the pros. I saw that Zane video too, and my mixed partner insists that you should always never be moving while hitting your return. LOL. Also, this guy's technique isn't very good. I guess talking about me. His serve is all arm and also stands straight after dinking. His breakdown videos are good though, so I guess my breakdown videos are good, but doesn't like the way I hit the ball, which is, it is what it is. You know, I mean, it's fine, but it shows a lack of depth, perhaps, and understanding. And then there's another one that this guy is mostly for the 50+ crowd. Zane is not. And so I started thinking about like why, like what's limiting these players' understanding that these two concepts, the one that's explained in my video on rushing, which is a different idea, and Zane's video on getting to the line quicker, which is a different idea, on how those two ideas, those two approaches, right, to the return can coexist in the same universe without contradicting each other. And so I'm going to explain that to you, and then I'll explain why those two concepts can work together, and then I'll explain to you why I believe that the issue that these players are having is that they're following an untethered approach to their pickleball, which is going to limit them and limit their understanding, and that if you have a tethered approach, it's much fuller. So first, let me explain to you why the two concepts can live together. What I'm dealing with are errors on returns of serve when you're missing returns of serve long, when you don't have control over your shot. Oftentimes, that's because you're rushing through the ball. And if you just it's a really quick set, you basically quickly set yourself, as you're hitting, you're going to have more control over your shot and make less mistakes. Now, what Zane is saying, now I gotta be honest with you, I haven't seen the video, but I know enough about pickleball. I know enough about Zane as a player and as a coach. He's a very good player, very good coach, good thinker of the game. What he's talking about is if you basically kind of hit as you're moving, so you don't get completely set like you would in a drive. That's what one of the players didn't really, I guess, grasp, is that when you're driving the ball, so you want to hit an all-out drive winner, whether it's singles or in doubles, you're getting set up for a big shot. Yeah, you want to be fully set. There's gradations of set. So there's the fully set, feet grounded, body turned, I'm just going to really wail on this ball. And then there's the, micro set while I'm hitting a return of serve. In theory, you could go all the way through like just running through the ball. And if you have the control of a Zane Navratil, that's fine, right? Zane Navratil played a lot of tennis, I believe, like college tennis. He's an excellent athlete, great player. So yeah, he can probably hit while doing a cartwheel, right? Most of us can't. And Zane would agree, I'm sure, that first order priority is get your return of serve in play. The next order priority would then be to get to the non-volley line. There's a step in the middle about deep, but that's for another conversation. But, get to the line. So if you have complete control over your returns of serve and you want to get a step on getting up to the line, yeah, sure. Then reduce the amount of your stop as you hit the ball. Now, I can tell you that most pro players, when you watch them hit returns of serve, they're set when they're hitting it, right? They get set, then they hit. It's a very quick set, but they're set. They're set, they hit, they move. When they're stacking, their return changes a little bit because now they have to go farther. So you'll see them. It's a much quicker stop, if you will, right? It's a very quick like pause, hit, and then keep moving. Different than when they're just having to move straight forward into the non-volley zone. But even the pros like to get set because set gives you a better, more consistent shot, more reliable shot. So these two concepts live together, right? They're not opposite. It's not that if you're making mistakes with your return of serve, oftentimes it's because you're rushing. The solution is get set while you're hitting the return of serve. Once you've mastered the shot to a level where you're never missing returns of serve, almost never, and you want to get a quicker jump on getting to the non-volley zone line, sure, then shortening the amount of your set, right, or eliminating it if you want to go that far, will get you to the non-volley zone line quicker. So those two concepts live together. Now, what makes it difficult for players like the ones who are in, not the first questioner, I think that was a fine question, the two, I think they're two male players, but basically the two guys that are just going back and forth on like, getting off topic about like whether I stand up in my dink or how I serve and what's that's got to do with this. And then the other one about like, well, pros do it this way, do it that way. What's happening here is the approach is an untethered approach to pickleball, and untethered basically means there's no central theme. There's no anchor to which these players are tethered. And what happens is when you're untethered as a player, you end up, I was thinking about like a kind of way of picturing it, right? And one way of picturing it is imagine that you're standing out in a plaza, right? And back in the day, and the town square, if you will, and there's different there's different flyers, different pieces of paper flying through the air, right? The wind is carrying flyers in different directions, and each one has a different pickleball tip from a different player, different coach, different whatever, and they're just flying around, right? Whatever the wind carries, and so you're just standing there, and you're just like, whatever comes your way, you'll take. So the wind pushes one tip in your direction, you grab it, you're like, okay, this is great, I'm going to do this. Or if it happens to swirl the other way and there's another tip, that's the one you're going to do. Or you have one in your hand, then you get another one, you're like, now, okay, well, forget about the first one, I'm going to do the second one. It's very fluid and loosey-goosey. And this idea of like these flyers flying through the wind and just falling into your hand is exactly what's happening in social media to you right now. It's exactly what's happening with YouTube, with Instagram, with Facebook, wherever you get TikTok, whatever, wherever you're getting your social media feed, if you will. That's exactly how that works. That is a world of wind blowing in different directions. You're getting a tip from here and a tip from there. I had a conversation with the team a few days ago. I don't really go into Instagram too much myself, but I happened to be in there because I needed to post something, and I just said, oh, let me scroll a little bit. So I scrolled a little bit, and I don't know how anybody who's on Instagram navigates that in terms of pickleball content. And listen, I'm chuckling, not as a criticism of any of the content creators. Everybody's trying to do their best. That's all great. I just don't know how you do it as a player, right? As a player sitting there, like there's content creators on there I've never heard of before. It doesn't mean they might be the best thing since sliced bread. I have no idea, but I don't know who they are. There's the tips are like all over the place. It's, you can find a tip for anything, again, depending on which way the wind is blowing. And so if you have an untethered interaction, right, with what's happening, I don't know how you navigate that, right? I honestly don't know how you can navigate that sea of information out there, right? The pamphlets flying through the air. I know I mixed metaphor analogies there, but basically, like the things that are floating around. How you navigate it, I don't know. Now, a tethered approach is where you have an anchor, right? You have a thing that anchors your pickleball journey. It gives you direction. It gives you a sense of what's correct and incorrect based on this tethering to an anchor. And that way, when you get a thing that comes across your feed, or somebody at the court says something to you that, is the latest thing they've heard or whatever, you don't have to just follow it because you don't know better, right? Or because you're untethered. Not because you don't know better. It's just you're untethered. You're just whatever. Okay, great. I'll take it. And so then tethered allows you, again, more control over your journey. It gives you more direction along the way you're headed. It allows for quicker improvement because you're not jumping all over the place. And it's actually more fulfilling because you're building, right? And we've used this before in our conversations, but it's this idea of like, you have a puzzle box cover. Well, puzzle box cover gives you a picture of the puzzle you're trying to build. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to, you can build it right away just because you saw the puzzle box cover. You still have to put all the pieces in order and organize them, and right, if you're building a puzzle. And the anchor or your tether to a cover gives you that sense of a sense of where you're going, right? Sense of what it looks like. What's the picture look like as you work to build it? Whereas again, an untethered approach is there's pieces and you don't know where they go. You don't know, you'll get a tips video and maybe it has you put the pieces, you think it's having you put the pieces on the upper left corner, but they actually go in the lower right corner. So you're putting them in the wrong place. Similar to the conversation that we just had about this idea of like getting set or not getting set when you're hitting returns to serve. If you don't understand how these different pieces, right? One is a purely mechanical piece on how to hit more reliable, consistent shots. And again, I'm pretty confident. I've spoken with Zane before. I've interviewed him a couple of times. We're cordial with each other. I actually got to play against him one time at the U.S. Open in Split. He's just all over the place, too much. But he's an amazing player and again, a great thinker of the game. But I'm confident that Zane would agree that the more controlled your body is while you're hitting, the higher the chances that you're going to hit a successful shot. What he's doing is he's trading off a little bit of that for quicker time to the non-volley zone line, which is a strategic issue, right? And so he's trading off a little mechanics for strategic, which is fine. There's nothing, I'm not criticizing. I think it's a fine way of thinking about it. It just depends on where you as a player are in the game right now, which one of those which one you should lean towards. Anyway, but if you don't have like a better understanding if you don't have an understanding of a puzzle box cover or understanding how the game puts together, you can't reconcile those two ideas and understand that they're fine together, or that they live in the same universe. So anyway, so how do you tether, right? So, you can tether a couple of different ways. The long-term tether is you understand the game. That's a long-term tether, right? That's basically, I know, like I'm tethered. I'm so tethered in this game. It's just crazy, right? I feel crazy about it sometimes, but I am totally tethered in this game. That's why I don't have to watch Zane's video. I can tell you, I have enough information to know, okay, this is what Zane's getting at. And it makes sense in that context, and I have no problem with it. In that context, it's fine. Just like the video that I did on rushing makes sense in my context. And again, I'm confident that if I was having a conversation with Zane, we would see eye to eye on these two videos, because he's tethered too. He's tethered. He has a clear understanding of the game. I have a clear understanding of the game. So that's one way to tether. Now, that takes, I've been playing pickleball for 10 years. I've been coaching it for 7+. I am a full-time student of the game. So, and I think about it very logically, very in a very progressive manner. I've developed a curriculum called the Pickleball System, all these things, right? So with my coaches at Better Pickleball, anyway, but I've been a part of that process, right? Respect the X, whatever, all these things. So that's one way to get tethered. The other way to get tethered is you find an anchor, right? And I just mentioned the pickleball system that we developed at Better Pickleball, right? That's a tether. That's an anchor that you can tether to, because like the pickleball system has what are the most important shots, why they're the most important shots, energy and trajectory that I mentioned earlier. All these concepts that are like very foundational and very like clear. And so you have a thing like the system and you go, okay, that's my anchor. You tether yourself to it. And now you're not just, flying around in the wind with all these things coming at you and you don't know what to take in and what not to take in. Another way to tether would be, if you have a coach in your area has a curriculum, has a philosophy, has a, way of approaching the game that's big picture, not just, haphazard, not just slapdash. And I'm not suggesting that all coaches are slapdash or haphazard. Let me be clear about that. There are some very good coaches out there. If you happen to have one of those coaches and you can work with that coach and that coach can be your anchor, that's perfectly fine. That's great. But that's the kind of anchor that you're looking for in order to tether yourself. There may also be other online materials that provide a tether. The ones that are an anchor, the ones that I've seen, no offense to them, they're fine, but they don't provide an anchor because they basically end up being kind of like an organized YouTube, if you will, so like, or behind the scenes YouTube, if you want to think about it that way. So they're basically like tips videos that are just organized in a place. That's not going to be an anchor unless it has a framework or a unifying theory, if you will, of the game that you're learning throughout that process. That's how you anchor yourself long term, and that's how you anchor yourself short term by using the resource like the pickleball system. So they may exist out there. I'm just not familiar with those. The ones I'm familiar with do not have a curriculum that would allow you to anchor yourself there. If they exist, then you can use them. That's great. But that's how you tether yourself, right? Having some sort of an anchor that gives you a unifying theory, a unifying idea, this puzzle box cover that helps you visualize it. And then you use that to tether yourself to it and avoid the distractions that are not just out there. They're going to continue, and they're going to increase as the sport continues to increase in popularity and growth. I fully expect more content creators to come into the space, and I don't begrudge them. I think it's great. I think for them it's great. The difficulty it presents is for you as a player is to navigate that, and tethering I think is a good way of doing that. All right, let me dive into the riff. The riff is basically I want to talk about the mental impact of or the impact of working on your mental game on your results. I have, this last weekend I was watching the Las Vegas, I think it was the Las Vegas Cup, the PPA event in Las Vegas. It was a fantastic event all the way around. The men's doubles final was absolutely out of control. It was 2.5 hours of pickleball, went 5 games. Game 5 was decided 12-10. So, I mean, you just can't. I mean, you can go, I guess you could have gotten 13-11 or 14-12 or something like that, but it was sort of like I don't know if you watch baseball, but it's like the baseball game with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers that went into 18 innings and, was one run in the end there. Same kind of thing. It's like just this monster battle. And what's stuck out to me was the play was amazing. I did a video on, I'm recording a video today that's going to be on the Into Pickle channel this week or next week. You can check that out if you want to look at some of the strategic and mechanical parts. But from a mental aspect of it, these players just did not break down. And the two that I want to focus on so Andre Dascu is 37. He's the elder statesman of the top players. He's not going to break down. He's a rock. Ben Johns on the other side of the court, same thing. Rock. He's not going to break down. He's going to do his thing. So the two players that you're looking at Christian Alshon, who is Andre's partner, and Gabe Tardio, who is Ben's partner. Christian Alshon, fantastic athlete, amazing player. I got to tell you, I don't know the details of his maturation as a player, but I can tell you can see it in his demeanor, in his play. I hats off to him. He used to be a little bit of a mental case, when he was out there, couldn't really, I would not have like the old Christian Alshon. I don't know if he navigates his game the way this Christian Alshon did. So again, hats off. And you can see it. You can see it in his demeanor. You can see it in his play. His play did not let up. And I'll tell you guys, one rally in particular that sticks out. Well, two that I used in the video coming out into Pickle. One is at like 8-9 or something like that. He missed a routine little reset dink in the transition zone. No big deal for him. Makes it probably 95% of the time. Missed it. Critical moment. Like, it's easy to get upset there, right? With yourself. He didn't. He went back. He spoke to Andre a second. I think that's also really important. Andre's, helping Christian develop, which is really, really good. And he's very supportive. Andre's always been a very supportive partner. That's a really important part of the game as well. But so Christian talks to Andre for a second. He goes back. He towels off, which is a really good technique just to take a moment to yourself. And then he comes out and he basically gets ready for the next rally, where he does a couple of jump things, whatever, just gets himself ready to go. The other one was even more dramatic, if you want to think about it that way. So Ben and Gabe were serving at 9-10, game 5, right? 9-10. And Ben drives a ball at Christian on the third shot drive at Christian, and the ball clips the tape, pops up. Christian can't quite get a paddle on it and misses it. So now it's 10-10. It went from 9-10 to 10-10 off of a net tape shot, right? Again, what do players do often there? They get frustrated. They get upset. They get like, woe is me. The universe is against me, whatever. Christian did not do that. He stayed in the game. They ended up losing the game 12-10, but it wasn't because he checked out. It was just really good rallies, and it just fell in, the chips fell in or the cookie crumbled the way of Ben and Gabe in that particular moment. But it wasn't because of a mental breakdown, and that was phenomenal. And the other side of the court, you have Gabe Tardio, who's 20 years old. And a couple of rallies that I'll mention to you. One was at around 8-9 in game 5. He had an ATP opportunity. He went for it, and he missed it. Okay. And I believe that actually gave a point to it. It might have been 8-8. That might have been an 8-9. I can't remember exactly whether it was a side out or a point, but still, it was a big moment. And he misses the ATP, and he was okay with it. Like, he wasn't upset about it. He wasn't, and then the other one was even, a bigger one, if you will, for them, which was there was Gabe had a ball that it came through the middle, and it wasn't an easy put away shot, but at his level and his ability, it was his, right? It was there. He put the paddle on it. He attacked it with a two-handed backhand and ended up going into the net. Now, what's interesting about this one is you saw him kind of like, he kind of like looked up like, oh yeah, I missed it. And then he took his paddle and he put it on his head, like, tapping his head. And you know how sometimes players would do that, like beating themselves up. But what was cool is you saw him catch himself. So he did that like once, and then he kind of like, he kind of like stopped doing it, realizing, okay, got to get ready. Then he put his, he ran his hand through his hair, which, my level of hair, I'm like, oh, look at that hair he's running it through. And then he's like ready to go. Right. And so the ability to navigate high pressure situations from a mental standpoint, the work you can put in, again, I want to focus on Christian Alshon, who before did not have this kind of mental fortitude. He's been working on it. Again, I don't know the details of what he's doing, but whatever he's doing, it's working great. And you can see it in his demeanor and his play. Gabe Tardio, young player at 20 years old, can navigate these. If these two players can navigate the highest stress situations of finals at a PPA in a 10-10, 12-10 finally, but, stressful situation, I'm pretty confident we can learn how to handle our rec games, our open play, our league, whatever we're doing. We can learn how to navigate that successfully. And if you navigate it successfully, putting some time in on your mental game, you're going to reap the benefits, not just in how you feel, but also in how you play. I'm going to plug the book one more time here. Little log rolling, that book, the book that we put out will really help you with that because it's a perspective book. It'll give you better perspective. That'll avoid, these spirals that can happen whenever we start feeling bad about ourselves and our play out on the court. So, all right, that was a pretty jam-packed episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the podcast, even if you didn't enjoy it, rate and review it. Appreciate it. Put a rating in there. If I did a 1-star job, give me a 1-star. Whatever you want to do on the ratings and reviews, I accept it. I take all feedback. And if you believe this podcast will help one of your friends, whether maybe you have a friend out there who's untethered, just following the tip of the moment. Maybe the idea of being tethered versus untethered might be the message that lands and resonates and allows them to start anchoring their journey in a way that's more productive and more fulfilling because you have the fuller relationship with the sport. And that's it again for this week's podcast. I already told you to share it with your friends, so I don't think I have anything else to say today. So hope you have a great week, and I'll see you at the next episode of Pickleball Therapy. Oh yeah, one more thing. So we're going to be at the Major League Pickleball and PPA, both in Dallas these next 2 weekends coming up. So if you're in the area, please come say hello. Kylene will be there. I'll be there. I'll be sporting the orange cap, so I should be easy to identify. Please come say hello. Let us take a picture with you. Let us know how you know us, things like that. We'll have a conversation. So hope to see you then. If not, I'll see you on the next episode of Pickleball Therapy. Be well.